All right, good morning, gang. We're back. It's just around 10 minutes after 9 o'clock, and, well, we've got a pretty good amount of sunshine out there and a whole lot less humid, 70 degrees. Welcome to Aired Out, brought to you by Barcelo Construction, Granite City MMA, Emsley's Floors and Gifts, K&W Tire, Gauthier's Quality Grounds and Maintenance, Fontaine Forestry and Millwork, and Wright Electric. I'm J.D. Green. So good to have you on board with us. Again, 70 degrees. It is just a beautiful, beautiful morning. 24th of the month already. I've got with me this morning special guest Dave Sawyer, who's just stepped on into the studio. Dave, first off, welcome to Aired Out, man. It's so great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
I've never met you before. I think I've seen you around before, maybe with Justin, but it's great to have you in here. You're from East Montpelier.
Well, now I live in Berlin. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. I've been in the community for 35 years now.
Wow. So we're going to be talking about poker this morning and the fascination that you have with it. But first, what do you do for a living?
Well, right now, I not too much. I've got some health issues that I'm dealing with, but yeah.
But you're hoping someday, maybe, to make a living off of playing professional poker.
Yeah, I mean, I've done well. Like I said, I just got back from an event, and yeah, I've done pretty well. So
I have to tell you, man, and I'm not going to try to fool you here. I don't know anything about poker. I've never played poker. I know very little, if really anything, about it. However, I'm fascinated to learn about this other side of the planet where people play professional poker and make a living off it. I mean, there's so many. And the only thing I know about poker is that I have recently, just within the last week or so, watched some poker fights, and my God, are those addictive to watch on YouTube. Holy shit. I mean, these people are like, they're out to kill each other.
They get pretty wound up. It's a pretty competitive sport.
I can't remember the last one that I just saw, but it was two guys, and it was just unbelievable. I think it may have been Phil Hellmuth.
Oh, yeah.
Might have been one of them, but there's a couple of real hotheads out there.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, it gets pretty crazy. Phil's known for his antics. He'll start going off on people. I could tell you some stories about that guy.
Is it just a strategy? Is it a distraction? Is it an act to just shake somebody up and go after their emotions and get them out of focus?
Well, if you can put somebody on tilt, it's to your advantage, because if they're playing on tilt, they're not focused on what's going on.
Is that what you guys call it? On tilt?
Yeah.
Which means you're getting them out of their mojo.
Exactly.
Really?
Exactly.
How can can you tell?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's another number of things. Anybody that's taken, poker seriously and stuff like that, they've taken, some classes and, ways to tell if somebody's full of it,
So you've been playing poker since you were a kid.
Yeah, I actually started, probably I was only 14, 15 years old. I got invited to sit in on a nickel 10-cent game at a friend of mine's father's on a Saturday night, and then it just became really addictive. So,
and now you're trying to make some huge changes in the state of Vermont. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But you actually, so how old are you now?
I'll be 59 in September.
59?
Yeah.
And you've been playing your whole life. This is remarkable. You actually were able to get into the casinos in the 80s.
Yeah. I started playing in Atlantic City at Tropicana, which was one of the card rooms down there, playing 7 stud back in 84, 85, I guess.
So you're just a young kid.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you do?
I fared well. I did well. I can remember one instant where, I'd taken the wife and kids to Florida, and on the way back we stopped, and I spent a week at Disney with the kids, and I played almost 3 days straight.
Wow.
And she was getting a little upset, wanting to get back to Vermont, and on the way back she hadn't said very much to me, and she says,
boy.
well, I actually made enough money in that 3-day session that it paid for our whole vacation, and it didn't cost us anything. So,
are you still married?
Not to her.
Oh yeah. So is it fair to say that you're maybe hooked, maybe addicted to poker?
Yeah, probably a little more than I should be. After COVID, I took off and flew to Florida in April. I played the WPT down there for a week. And then just more recently, I spent a week in Cherokee, North Carolina, playing the WSOP series down there. And then a week at Foxwoods after, because they had their first tournament event last Wednesday.
Wow. So Foxwoods went green in the mid-'90s, and you must have been right on it.
I was. 96, I think it was.
You're probably there for the ribbon cutting.
No, not quite. I found out about it a little bit after.
But you've played some tournaments at Foxwoods?
Oh yeah. That's like we can say is my home house.
Mohegan?
I played Mohegan there in 2002, 2003, prior to 2004. They had closed their room down right after the big poker boom because of I don't know what reasons, but they had closed it down.
My grandmother, who at, let's see, I think she was in her early 80s, maybe late 70s, became a high roller at Foxwoods and continued right up until she passed. And I went with her. I think I was in my mid-30s, and I went with her one night. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, after spending many hours in the high roller lounge, I had had enough, and I was ready to put my head down. And she was still going. Like, I mean, she was just getting started. And I think she came back to her hotel room, which was this big suite up at Foxwoods, at like 4:30 in the morning. I mean, she's an animal, just an animal. It's got to be. It's in your blood.
Gambling will get in you, and once it gets you, it grabs you. I don't look as poker as gambling. It's more a game of mathematics, tells, and stuff. If you play by the foundation,
Strategy.
The foundation that's set over the long term, you're going to be a winner. Anybody can win at poker in a single setting, but it's being a consistent winner.
So over this long term, do you consider yourself a winner in poker? Do you think that if all of the money that you've won versus all of the money that you've spent, if we were to shake that down, and God only knows the true answer to this, you think you'd be on top?
Well, yeah. Right now, I'm 12th on the all-time money list.
So you're keeping track.
Yeah.
So this is 12th on the all-time money list in the state of Vermont.
Correct. Yeah, and that's tournament entries. That has nothing to do with my online play or my cash play.
And you were just telling me before the show started about the hiddenmob.com. What's that?
Well, if you can look online, the hiddenmob.com, they rank players from around the world, and then they categorize them in each state where they're standing as far as tournaments, mostly earnings.
And you're right up there.
In Vermont, yeah.
12th.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. Do you know the do you know the other 11 guys that are ahead of you?
Well, I know a few of them. Yeah, I know a few of them. The guy that actually holds the first spot was Stephen Landfish, who was a doctor out of Burlington. I think he's since passed, but he holds the number one spot right now.
Wow. And you've done some Texas Hold'em, no limit Hold'em tournaments, right?
Yeah, that's basically what I play. I'll play some other tournaments, but mostly the no limit Hold'em. That's my niche.
Tell me about Chris Moneymaker in 2003.
Well, 2003 brought on the poker boom.
Yes.
Chris Moneymaker, he was a accountant out of Tennessee that had won his way onto the $10,000 World Series main event through PokerStars. He was playing, which was an online site, and he I think it was like a $22 tournament he played, and he actually went on to win the World Series in 2003. And when everybody seen that on TV, because of course they had that on the Wide World of Sports, and they showed it, and here he was, he won it. The poker that year it went crazy, like
Exploded.
fall of 2003. Yeah,
Worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide.
So what happened with you? Was there a shift with you at this point?
Well, my kids were young at that time, and I really wanted to get on the poker boom because I'd been playing with, a lot of the pros that are playing today. Greg Raymer being one of them, who won the 2004 World Championship. I used to play with him on Tuesday nights down at Foxwoods.
Wow.
There was a lot of guys that picked up. They went to Vegas. They got picked up and, by sponsorship through some of the online sites. And they made a lot of money. And I wanted to do it, but my wife was dead against it. She wanted to, even though, I was playing Tuesdays and Wednesdays down there and coming home with more than what I was making at my job, she just was against it. So I had to wait it out. And then when my kids, got over 18, I started playing more. So
can anyone who is a real big hitter in poker, I mean huge, globally huge, stay married?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You get like Daniel Negreanu, he's married, happily married. He's probably one of the top players in the world. There's some younger guys out there now that I'm sure are married. I don't know too many of them personally.
Yeah.
The younger guys. I have, Negreanu and Phil Hillmuth and, those guys. I believe they're all happily married.
And I bet you their wives are saying, we're going to stay married, and you're going to do your thing, but you better be pulling in some cash, and it better be good cash.
Yeah. Well, Daniel Negreanu, he averages over $1 million a year in tournaments. And he has for the past. I think he had one off year, but he's right there. And the World Series event starting up here next month. We'll see in October, I guess, through November, and he'll be there. And I'm sure you'll see him at a final table.
Will you be there?
I may go play some of the smaller events.
Yeah.
I'm not bankrolled to the point where I can just go buy into a $10,000 event.
Sure. And if not, you'll be watching on TV?
Absolutely.
I would guess. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Chris Moneymaker lights the fuse in 2003. The bang goes off, and now it sent shockwaves globally. The American government starts sniffing this out and says, hey, wait a second. This is getting massive. There's a ton of money that's going around. We want a piece of the pie.
That's correct. Yeah. The online stuff, most of all the sites were run either out of Canada, the Isle of Man, Costa Rica, places like that. They had their servers at, and everybody jumped on the bandwagon. They're playing big dollars. And I'll be honest, back then I was making a living sitting in my recliner at home playing online.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Cashing out money every week. And 2003, 2004, all these sites wanted it regulated. At that time, party poker was in the U.S., and it was actually, I think, it's trading on the stock market. And the government stepped in and says, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. This is illegal. It's part of the Wire Act. We're not going to allow this to happen. So they withdrew, and they went back to Canada, and all these other sites were still offering it to U.S. players, and it was kind of hard for the government to do it. But we, as poker players, there was a grassroots organization, Poker Player Alliance, that was founded, and actually I was appointed as the state director back in 2004
for Vermont. Wow.
Yeah, for Vermont, and we would lobby because we were asking, the government to regulate it, and they were doing little seizures of bank money that that were getting dispersed to players, and we says, hey, listen, why don't you give us a regulated license, place to play, and so we'd travel to D.C. and lobby for it, tried to get these people on it, saying, hey, this is a new tax base. Back then, if you remember, Obamacare and that stuff was going on, and they were looking for ways to fund health care. Well, here we go. We get with these legislators, and we say, hey, listen, here's a new tax base. Let's get it going. It can be huge in this country.
So what did you do here in Vermont? Did you sit down with some Vermont dignitaries and?
Well, at that time, there was a lot of charity events around the state of Vermont. The big one was the Make-A-Wish at the Doubletree.
Poker charities.
They were tournaments that they were running on the weekends, and a lot of times during the middle of the week, you'd find one. There was one almost every day, and the Make-A-Wish, the first few years, they were, if you're familiar with them, it takes like $10,000 to make a wish for a kid. Well, they were donating 1 or 2 wishes just from poker players coming to the Doubletree that were playing these events. And that's what was going on, So we were doing fly-ins to Washington, D.C. and lobbying, trying to get these regulators to do it. And the state of Vermont stepped in, liquor control. They started sending their agents out saying, hey, listen, you guys got to turn around and put a permit in 30 days in advance. And they were against it. They were trying to shut it down. There was money that they couldn't get their hands on or whatever.
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it right
exactly,
there.
Yeah. And so they kind of threaten some of these places. I don't know, threaten may be thing. They just advise them that said, listen, if you don't follow these rules, we're going to pull your liquor license. And it was really a gray area to whether they had that type of authority to regulate, a charity event. That's what these nonprofits were for, was charity events.
Sure.
So a lot of places started, I'm not going to lose my liquor license, and we had some locally here in the Barrie area that, we got to put in for this. And we had one club locally that on Thursday nights, which was a dead night, for them. I think it was a Tuesday night, I guess it was, dead night. There'd be 50 people there waiting to play poker.
Sure.
And what they didn't understand was those 50 people were drinking, supplying, paying taxes on the liquor receipts and stuff like that, and keeping these nonprofit clubs in business, So they got scared and told them they couldn't do that every week now. Oh, we're going to allow you to do it, twice a year. So the clubs got scared.
So where does it stand now in Vermont?
Every now and then you'll see a charity event pop up. Not too many, but it's kind of dead.
How does all this differ, Dave, between poker tournaments and poker matches and the Thursday night bingo down at the Masonic Lodge right here in Barrie, or at the Canadian Club, or anywhere?
Well, I don't think it differs really, but the thing is I think there's this persona that poker's gambling. It's a gamble.
Well, it's a game that uses strategy and tactic.
Exactly. Same as chess.
But bingo is pure.
That's pure luck.
Freaking luck.
That's pure luck. I mean, exactly.
You could be totally hungover and play bingo.
Yep.
And win or lose. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And, there's still some stuff going on within the state. Some guys are playing through some apps, through Facebook and stuff like that. But it's really not a safe, regulated place to play.
Wow. Oh, the word regulation. What a pain in the ass that word is, isn't it, though?
Exactly.
What about the Southern District of New York? You were telling me a little bit about that.
Well, back, I believe it was 2009, Black Friday came, and that was really the shutdown of the internet poker within the U.S. They did a big seizure, and I think it was like $10 million that were going to get dispersed out to players.
Yeah.
And at that time, they were trying to seize records of who was actually making money and who wasn't, so they could tax it. And since then, most all that money has been distributed. And there's 2 states, New Jersey and Nevada, of course, that have regulated online poker. Which it doesn't make much sense to me. If you're going to do it, we need to do it across the board.
Right. So if they're doing it right in one state or several states, maybe Vermont and other states that are not regulating should take note here. How are these other states benefiting? I mean,
tax dollars. Dollars. It's regulated, and the tax dollars, and not just from.
How well are they benefiting? I mean, what kind of money are we talking about that's going into their?
Well, I don't have those numbers exactly, but it's got to be at least self-supporting, and I'm sure it's doing more than that, or they wouldn't be doing it.
They wouldn't still be doing it, right?
The disadvantage we're at here in Vermont, if we want because this online series, the World Series of Poker online, which a lot of money can be won. I mean, and it's not just about winning it, but being able to play and compete. If we want to do that, we're either going to have to rent a hotel room in Canada or go to New Jersey or Nevada to be able to play on our laptop against these other people.
So if you want to play in person in Vermont, you've got to play privately in someone's home.
That's about it.
Really?
Yeah, and there's some games every week. People hold games every week around.
But that's it, though.
That's it, unless you want to travel. And I travel a lot. I mean, you go down to Concord or Nashua, New Hampshire. Of course, they got card rooms in West Leb and stuff in New Hampshire. So, I go down there and I see the place is half full of Vermonters that just spent their gas and rooms and meals to leave the state of Vermont to go play poker.
And booze.
And the booze, yeah. Exactly.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, every day. I was in Cherokee, North Carolina, and I ran into 3 Vermonters that were down there.
What was that?
Playing poker.
The WSOP?
Yeah, it was a World Series of Poker series event in Cherokee. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was big. Yeah, I'll say that. The one of the $400 events, they had 4-day ones, and each one it was over 4,000 players, 1,000 each day that were playing.
How do you know, Dave? Let's say you're getting ready to set sail for North Carolina. You're going to go down there. You're going to be part of this. What do you, in the week or 2 or 3 leading up to this, what's running through your mind? How much, what kind of budgeting are you doing? What are you saying, what's the minimum that you have to put down to play? And how much money are you planning on bringing with you?
Well,
or spending?
I try to plan out my rooms and meals and stuff like that. And then I look at the schedule and I say, hey, I'm going to play 6 events. And I just total up those 6 events.
Not 7?
No, well, you got to watch your bankroll is what it comes down to, because tournament poker, it's tough. It is tough. I'll play cash games and every day walk out at a plus pretty much. But a tournament, when you're playing fields of 3,000 and 4,000 people, sometimes it's a big deal.
Do you know when to walk away and when to run? Oh. Just had to ask that question.
Yeah, I've gotten caught a few times not knowing when to fold them and get out of there, but yeah.
Yeah, you've got to be somewhat competitive by nature and not want to give up. But at some point, you really do need to know when to walk away and say, I got a cloud hanging over me right now. I've got to step away from this. That's got to be difficult to do.
Oh, it is. I tell you, I went through a bad run of cards back a few years back, because I took a little bit of a break from it, but I ran a bad, and it seemed like, I had the best of it, and the last card comes, people were hitting stuff that just seemed bizarre that it was happening, but it was happening, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you got to know when to limit your losses, and the key to it is knowing what games you can beat and what you can't beat, and get up and get away.
Does it matter who you sit next to, Dave?
Me personally,
Yeah.
I don't care who I sit next to. I've played with some of the best in the world.
Do players have the option of where they sit?
No, it's usually in a tournament. It's a random draw. Cash game is different, but tournaments, it's random. When you sign up, throughout that tournament, they'll move you and break down tables and stuff like that to make it to where you need to be. Yeah.
Where do you get on a personal level? Do you get into like a deep mode of focus and concentration, like something that's subconscious almost, or is your heart racing, your mind is racing, and you're maybe even feelings like fear?
Not so much fear, but there's times like you may make a move on somebody, and all of a sudden you can kind of tell that you're starting to tremble a little bit, or you're going to look away. You don't want to see them you don't want them to see you swallow, or like they and a lot of times you'll just go into an acting mode because you want them to think you're feeling strong, or you want them to think you're weak. So there's a lot involved in it.
That's a huge part of poker, is the act.
Exactly.
Not necessarily what cards you're throwing down, but your body language.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've pulled some moves on people simply knowing that they didn't have the best of it, and I may not have had anything whatsoever. Just the texture of the board, and maybe a flush card comes out that I know they were worried about by the way they bet. And when it does, I push back, and then they think I got the flush, so they'll muck their hands.
What's the Dave Sawyer poker face? Do we have it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've got a poker face. I think I try to stay level the whole time. I try not to show anything.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's fascinating. So where are you? You're getting your fix mostly right now through the computer, because you're unless you run to North Carolina or somewhere where it's legal.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big online player anymore. I used to be in the early days, late 90s, through 2005, I played online. I did quite well back then, but now I don't really care for online. I prefer to be sitting at a table with somebody. So like I'll shoot out of here on a Wednesday and go down to New Hampshire, down to a card room down there, and play 4 or 5 hours and come home.
When you've sat at the table with Senator Leahy, what happened? That was in 2005, I think.
Yeah, I believe it was 2005. It was funny. I was there with Greg Raymer and Annie Duke. Annie's a pro player, and Greg Raymer's 2004 world champ. And we were talking to his I don't know what you call it, his front person, and saying, hey, how we'd like to get support for Bernie Frank's bill out of Massachusetts, was trying to get it into Congress, and we want it regulated. Hey, here's a new tax base. Well, Leahy came in, and he sat there, and he says, listen, my constituents are against gambling. And we say, well, we're not really looking to open a casino or something. We just want to be able to play cards online.
Sure.
Poker. And he says, well, now we're against it. And I said to Leahy at the time, I says, I introduced myself, Dave Sawyer, and I didn't say where I was from, but I says, listen, I says, every day of the week there's a bingo event in the state of Vermont. There's charity poker events all over the state. There's lottery tickets. There's all this, and you're worried about your constituents, not wanting to allow gambling. And it says it just doesn't make any sense. And I told him at that time, I says I was from East Montpelier, and he sat there, and I said to him, I says, listen, I just went to the Caledonia Fair. I believe it was the Caledonia Fair. And I talked to a farmer up there that is married to his farm 7 days a week, can't go anywhere. And that farmer said to me, he says, when you go down there for the fly-in, because I was there as a state director for the PPA, he says, let Leahy know that after I'm done milking, if I want to go in and sit at my computer and play and socialize with people online, I should be able to, and it should be legal. And, Leahy, I think he got a little offended. He got up and, excused himself, had another appointment, and left. And that's where it kind of like stopped. Nothing was said.
And that was 2005?
Yeah. It's been a lot of years.
It's a long time ago, man.
Yeah. It's amazing. Time flies.
Has there been anything from anyone in the state of Vermont since then to open the discussion?
Well, I've talked with a few local reps, and they said that, possibly our governor would entertain it if some bill came up about the online thing. I don't know about regulating poker rooms or not, but I don't think anybody's put a bill out there, which I think we need to do. We need to get a bill out there and see if we can get some legalized, regulated stuff in the state of Vermont. I'm not asking for a blown casino with slot machines and table games and stuff like that, but a card room. Sure. I think they would see a new tax base that they would be able to tax.
Right. Sure. So this is something that how many states of our 50 states are regulating? Do you know?
On the online, I believe there's only 2 or 3. Okay. I'm not sure if Pennsylvania's done it. I know New Jersey has and Nevada has.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about the others right now.
What about in-person poker tournaments? What about regular physical poker games?
Oh, well, as far as that, I mean, you've got New Hampshire has card rooms and some small casinos now that are regulated. Massachusetts, I believe Maine, Oxford, I think they have a poker room at their casino. Florida, Texas,
Connecticut,
Mississippi, Connecticut, Nevada, Arizona, they're all over. There's card rooms all over. Pennsylvania, I just recently, on my way down, I played in the Poconos at a card room.
Yeah. Maybe Rhode Island, too.
Yeah. Come to think about it, Twin Rivers, they had a card room there. I don't know if they still do since COVID hit. I don't know if it's open back up.
So what do you want to do? I mean, what can we do here? Are you basically looking for fellow poker enthusiasts who are willing to kind of lock arms with you and maybe create some kind of coalition, for lack of a better term, to maybe present something to the Vermont government?
Yeah, I think that's what needs to happen. Is that in my motivation is to get some get a spotlight back on it. Let's get some people together. Some of them,
the spotlight's everywhere else, man. I mean, there's tons of things that the spotlight's getting thrown around on in Vermont right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Tons.
I just think if we need to get some people that are willing and some people that are smarter than I, how to come up with a bill and
to show Vermont.
Yeah, show them the way to go. Let's lay it out, a roadmap, and see if we can't get it passed so that we can start playing legally and safely.
That's right.
Within the state of Vermont.
Well, Vermont's always interested in finding a new tax base here.
Well, it's a big one.
I mean, look at the pot shops. Legalizing marijuana, and I mean, if there's a way that Vermont can make some coin, they're going to do it.
Well,
generally,
yeah. I think there's still this kind of persona that poker's gambling and that there's drugs and prostitution and stuff like that involved, right. and that's not true. I mean, you're going to have that. You have that already.
Of course.
There's
stigmas with everything, man. Yeah. Everything.
Yeah. There isn't a time that I leave the state of Vermont to go to an event, whether it was across the border into Canada to play or Connecticut or Florida even, that I don't run into Vermonters that are there strictly for the reason of playing poker.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So to wrap up here, your message to anyone who may be watching in government, what's your final point?
Just let's entertain it. Let's see what we can do. I think the time has come. It should have happened back in early 2000. We're 20 years later, and we're still at the same spot we are.
At least 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Will you stay in touch with me?
Absolutely.
I know you'll be in touch with Justin, but man, if there's if we have the tiniest little ball that's rolling on this, I'd love to know about it.
We'll keep you informed.
Please keep us informed. And if there's anything we can do to help promote what you're doing, we're all about it.
Alrighty, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for coming in here. Where are you playing next?
Well, I'm waiting to see what happens in Canada. I want to see with this COVID stuff if the playground's going to start offering tournaments.
Wow. I'd love to go and just watch. I'm fascinated by it, but definitely not play. But hoping to take Sherilyn one of these days to Mohegan Sun or Foxwoods, so she can. And there's a big one over in New York too, right? Yeah.
Well, there's a few of them over there. Twin Rivers, Turning Stone. There's not Twin Rivers, the Rivers, and Turning Stone. So yeah, there's a few.
Thanks for sneaking in here, man.
No
Absolute
problem.
Pleasure. Fascinating. Dave Sawyer, our guest this time around on Aired Out, talking about poker and talking about specifically poker and the state of Vermont. Our presenting sponsors, FGB Theaters, retirementvt.com, Aeromed Essentials, Vermont Custom Woodworking, the Barry Montpelier Times, Argus, and Donnybrook Fight Promotion. We appreciate your eyes and your ears. 72 degrees, warming up slowly, but a lot less humid. We're going to be back tomorrow with Tracy Lewis at 11 o'clock. Steve Pappas from the Times Argus will be sneaking in right after that, about noon tomorrow. And keep watch of the page this afternoon. We've got the latest weather from Roger Hill, more Vermont news and sports and all that good stuff right on the Aired Out Facebook page. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll catch you real soon.